Short-term missions. Um, this is a fun and exciting topic, and I think all of you probably have a lot to say about this. So we are going to give you the chance to talk with each other and to share a little bit. So we put this day on the same day as our policy and procedures because our policy and procedure manual does contain quite a bit of information about short-term missions and kind of how it works. It's a lot of details and a lot of details that you probably wouldn't remember if I talk about it all today. So please just know it's in there. You can refer to it when the time comes. But also, when the time comes, you can reach out to us for help. So, when you are going to be hosting a team and you want a refresher on, hey, what do we need to do here? Please just reach out and know that we are here as a resource to you in that, and you can check back at the policy and procedure manual book. Um, I will go over some of that today, but I'll try to keep it on a higher level. So the two main goals for our time together today, one is I'd love to just give you some time to really think through short-term missions in your context. And some of you might have a really good picture of that already. Um, and what you want the impact and outcomes of short-term missions to be in your ministry context. And then I do want to spend a little time going over role clarity because that helps us all to do our part better when we know who's doing what. So we will spend a little time going over role clarity kind of again on a high level, just so you kind of have a general sense of what short-term missions typically look like here at Global Outreach. So as we get started, I might have grabbed your pictures off of Facebook. Yay! That made the presentation more exciting to have your pictures. So as we get started, I just wanted to invite you all to think of this word impact. And I'd like you to think back to your own experience of participating in a short-term mission team. So a short-term mission trip where you were a participant, maybe the first one or two. I'm guessing all of you have been on a short-term mission trip and many maybe have been on many short-term mission trips. So think back, maybe back to your first experience. What was the impact of that in your life? And what words or phrases would you use to describe that impact? So I'm going to give you 60 seconds to just jot down a piece of paper in front of you. What was the impact of that short-term mission experience? And what words or phrases would you use to describe that? Okay, and now I want you guys to have a chance to talk about it. So I'm going to put you into a breakout room, share with each other, share your words, phrases, a little bit about the experience, and have one person in your group ready to share some of those words, phrases when we come back together and enjoy a little conversation. Okay, there's your rooms. Representative from your group who would like to share some of the impacts of these short-term mission experiences, we would love to hear them.
Well, I don't know if I remember details of each one, but we all went through mission trip, short mission trip. I didn't go to a normal short trip. I went through a missionary course, and part of the course was an outreach to another country. And but yeah, all the others went through mission trip, and they shared that was impacting. They saw differences like in culture, how other people do things and act and behave. And also in terms of, heart, it breaks our heart sometimes to see other things, other reality. Catherine shared about that really touched her trip to Guatemala. And yeah, I think it's pretty much recap a little bit of what we felt that the mission trip was impacting in terms of seeing difference and the need of other countries. And Alex also shared one thing that was interesting, that his homeland, people don't think that you need to go out for missions because, why should we send? And I mentioned that sometimes some countries that are still missions field, they feel like they need to receive missionaries more than they need to send. So that we also talked about that a little bit too. If I missed anything, guys, you can just mention.
That's great. Thank you, Fernando, for sharing that. And I can resonate with all these things that you mentioned from short-term mission experiences I had as well, that a lot of these things were very impactful, seeing differences, experiencing a new place and new people, differences and commonalities. Like, whoa, that's funny. We can connect on that. And really loving that. What about our other group?
Group number 2. Uh, Looks like that 3 different destinations as a short mission trips: Honduras, Middle East, Macedonia, and impresses was impactful, true serving to God, still keeping connection with a lot of people, uh, heart for evangelism, um, overwhelmed by God's love, um, gaining bigger vision for the nations, um, adventurous, helpful, seeing how God can use you in different culture. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So many impacts, which is incredible. I mean, you hope that these experiences kind of change and shape the way that you think and what you're aware of in the world and with other cultures and build bridges. Um, and so it's, I don't know, helpful to me to think back on some of my first experiences and think, wow, that really did shape me and that did change me and grow my awareness. And hopefully for the good, God used those things in me, and to see God's overwhelming love outside of your own context in the lives of other people is incredible. Um, so thank you for sharing that. And now that we've kind of looked back in our lives, I want you to think to now your current context again. And many of you may have a very clear idea of what this looks like in your current context. Others of you might have to imagine a little bit. But I'm going to shuffle the breakout rooms. We're going to give you a chance to chat again and share about, in your current ministry context, what short-term missions either do look like or could look like, and what you hope the impact of that is. That impact could be for your ministry, or the impact could be for the people that are coming to serve, and you think, wow, I want them to be impacted. What do we want the result of that to be? So I'll let you think about that for a second while I recreate the rooms here. Okay, and I'm going to send John in there, and we'll give you about 8 minutes to chat with your group. Brief on this, but quickly, what was shared in your groups about the kind of impacts you hope for with you as the host of these short-term mission teams?
So after Draghi left our group, me and Fernando arranged that I'll be the speaker of ours. And it was, we were waiting for him.
I love
it. Yeah. We were discussing a lot of ministry project opportunities. You can see some of them on the left side of your screens. But however, it was interesting that we discussed a lot of the different positions, like arriving at some kind of ministry, I mean, to a different country or another field than your common one, and also what it is to be a guest. The great chance for the people to come to serve with us on a short term ministry project is that they experience other realities, different cultures, and It is amazing that it is encouraging and open doors for us because new people are so attractive for the people from our own culture. And we were discussing that when we host a short-term missionary project, we are serving pretty much in two directions at least. And on one side, we are serving our guests, so prepare everything for them. On this other, we are serving the people who are about to be approached, so taking care for this part of the project. And of course, the connection between these two groups. And it is a really responsible but rewarding role. And it was amazing that we were talking a little bit more about how our ministry partners can experience the ministry if they come here. So experiencing it firsthand and investing not only financially and prayerfully, but also having the chance to make an impact and just see what it is to be a missionary. And also in our previous group, I was with Fernando and Catherine and Alex. So many people shared that participating in a short-term missionary project gave them the vision to become a missionary. That was Catherine and Fernando. So pretty much this is the chance also.
Yeah. Yes, to all those things. I love that. Thank you for sharing, Elena. And our other group?
Many of the same things, so I won't repeat those. But something else that we discussed was that when we receive a group, we can experience God's love in a non-materialistic way. Yeah, just experience another aspect of God's love, and also. Something interesting that Blake and Kathy will be having in Good Shepherd is groups of non-believers who come, humanitarian groups, who also experience the gospel there because of the center and the work that they do. But also there is like a cautious element that, sometimes children get very attached to the people who come, so they need to be cautious about receiving groups and how much they interact with the children. Yeah, the rest was very similar.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. And yes, I think in this group, there's such a wealth of experiences and kind of a variety of experiences as well. So a lot of different things to think about with short-term mission teams, but it's just an area that we love to encourage our missionaries. It's such a special way to have people be involved in what you're doing, and especially from your sending church, it really creates an amazing opportunity to grow relationships with people. And oftentimes, once those relationships have been started, people want to come back year after year after year. And it's exciting to think about what God does through those relationships. So when we talk about short-term mission and global outreach, I love to bring back up our church partnership triangle. There it is again. I know you guys were waiting to see that. But it's, again, such a neat time to see this in action. So these partnerships, these relationships are really kind of activated with short-term missions. So in this context, when we talk about short-term missions and global outreach, what we're very often talking about is the missionary as the host. So I know this could look different ways, but this is kind of what I'm referring to right now with short-term missions, is thinking of you as the host. Considering the church still being the sender, probably because this is the majority of what we see in terms of the short-term mission trips that we're involved in and that we help to facilitate, is that a church, typically from the United States, not always, is organizing a group to go visit a missionary, their missionary, wherever they're serving. And in that process, Global Outreach wants to come alongside as a facilitator to help the church and also to help the missionary in that process. So this is kind of the most typical scenario that we see and are working with at Global Outreach with short-term missions. So we don't take teams and just tell you, hey, Draghi, we're sending you a team next month. That's not the role we play. We usually wait for you to tell us if you are hosting a team and if you've made that decision. So this just gives a picture again of those relationships between the missionary, the church, and global outreach. So as I mentioned before, role clarity is important. It's helpful to know who does what in this process. And you all mentioned some of these things just in your sharing. So the missionary as the host, as I just mentioned, it really is yours to decide who comes and when they come and how long you would like them to come for. So as the host, you have the authority to make those decisions. This is another area of global outreach where it's high autonomy and the high responsibility that comes with that. So there's a lot of planning, and I'm curious out of this group who has hosted and done the planning part in your setting. You can just raise your hand. Have you been a host to teams? Okay, I figured several of you have had that experience, and it's a lot of work. We became hosts here at Global Outreach a couple of years ago, my husband and I, to a short-term mission team that was coming to our home office, and we had the trial by fire because it was not something that we had a lot of experience in, but we got a taste of how much work it is to plan and prepare for people coming to be in your area, planning the food, the logistics, the transportation, the lodging, all the things. So this is typically what our missionaries are responsible for. And the part that we wanted to give you guys some time to talk with each other is this last point of thinking strategically about outcomes and impacts. And I love this because, especially in our world of mobilization, where we're working a lot with new long-term missionaries, but also I get to work with a lot of churches and these short-term mission teams. This is a big step of faith for a lot of people, and like you said, often an initial introduction to missions. And we really don't want people to leave those experiences without a next step. And so it's your opportunity as a missionary host to think of how can we offer these people a next step. And in a lot of ways, that next step can also be a really big benefit to you in your ministry. So would you like, as an outcome, to have more prayer partners that are praying for your ministry, that have now experienced it and want to continue to support you in prayer? Would you like, as an outcome, for more people to financially support? Maybe someone comes for an outreach or a project and it really gets a hold of their heart. Maybe they want to invest in that in the future. Maybe it's somebody that says, wow, I think I want to do this work too. Could I come and be a short assignment missionary with you next year? Could I spend 6 months? Or maybe it's somebody that will be your coworker in the future. They come and they say, I'm going to do this full time. So just love for you to think about what kind of outcomes, what kind of next steps can you offer to people? Because this is now your hosting opportunity and your chance to extend to someone else an opportunity to take a next step and to not have their short-term mission trip be the last step that they take in the area of missions. The church is a sender. So in our earlier session today, Draghi asked a very good question about what is vetting. And vetting is something that you have all just recently been through with Global Outreach, where we have talked to you, we've talked to your church, we've talked to people that know you, we've asked for references. We wanted to check you out and say, who is this person? I don't know them. And so we would like to know them better before we say, yes, please come. And so now in this situation of short-term missions, we really see the church, or we would ask if you are having somebody else that's not a part of a church, that it would be somebody that you know and trust as a team leader who is responsible for vetting that team. Somebody that knows those people and that can say, yes, they are prepared to take a trip like this, and they have the maturity to take a trip like this, and they're equipped spiritually to be a part of the work we're doing. So we at Global Outreach don't do the vetting for our short-term mission teams that come. There's really no way that we could know all these people because they're coming from too many different places, and we don't have a way to be able to screen them. So that's why, as a host, we want you to really trust your church and your team leader choose someone that you know and trust to do that work of vetting those team members. Then there's all kinds of preparation that that team leader needs to do in terms of financially preparing the team, knowing what the budget is, fundraising, preparing the team spiritually, working in coordination with you to understand the culture and the context so that they can prepare the team in those ways as well. And then communicating with you as the missionary host, making sure you're all in agreement on the plans and the timing and what that trip is going to look like. And then also we want the team leader to communicate with us at Global Outreach. So I'll share a little bit about our role at Global, but we don't as much work one-on-one with individual team members as much as we work with the team leader. And then they help to provide all the information to their team that's needed. So in terms of Global Outreach, the way that we come alongside to help serve and support in short-term mission sending is we do ask that all our short-term mission teams register with us. So it's not an application, but it's a registration. And this basically provides us with basic information: who's going, where, to see what missionary, when, and emergency contact information so that we could be of assistance in case anything would happen and we would need to get a hold of anyone. That registration does cost $60 per person. And the reason for that, again, falls under the umbrella of our 100% promise to our missionaries. We provide the way for these short-term mission teams to fundraise through our website and for those funds to be able to transfer over to the missionary. But we don't take a percentage of that. So we do ask for this one-time registration fee that helps to cover our administrative costs there. We do ask for all teams, again, the majority of our teams are coming from the United States. So that's the most typical team that we have. For all those that are traveling from the US, we do require that they purchase our travel insurance, and they can purchase that through us at the home office. We help facilitate that, and that's $3 per person per day. And that, again, is just in case that anything would go wrong while your team is there. That allows Global Outreach to be able to support help in case there's a medical claim or something like that. And then, as I mentioned, funds processing. The team gets a site on our website where people can go and donate funds for their trip. And then once that money has been raised, our finance team is able to easily transfer that money to you at your ministry site so that you can use that to prepare for your team coming. And then, like everybody else, we have a role in communicating with the missionary and with the team leader so that we can help with the registration process, help with the insurance, any other kind of connecting questions. We are sort of boots on the ground on this side of things to be able to help in completing the communication that's needed for the different teams. So I kind of cruised through a lot of that. Do you have any questions from what I just shared? Yeah, Fernando.
So we offer to the home office that we are willing to get a team, and we give you guys the dates and the cost and everything. And then you guys kind of authorize us to go ahead and do that. You guys get a team from the church and offer to them the possibilities to come to Spain or to go to the Amazon or to India. There are the three places I lead teams. So how would that work? Is my church that I need to contact and go through you, or you also find churches to come?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So the most typical thing is that a missionary is working with their church. So most typically you would be working with your church. They say, hey, we want to come bring a team to Spain. And then you would reach out to me and say, hey, Becky, I've talked to this team. They're coming in July on this week. Can you help them start the registration process? That's the most typical. We do have churches or people reach out to us and say, hey, what opportunities do you have? When we get inquiries like that, it's really helpful to us If we know if a missionary loves to host teams and wants to have more teams, then we can help make that connection. If you want only teams that you're connected with, that's perfectly fine, and that's how probably the majority of our missionaries do that. But I have a handful of missionaries that I know say, hey, send them my way. So if that's your case, then you can always let me know, and we can direct people to contact you, and then they would contact you for more information. So again, I know our time is kind of running here, but when you are going to be hosting a team, you can remember that you can reach out to us. If you've already determined when they're going to come and the dates and everything, then either you or the team leader can reach out to us here at this email address, shortterm@globaloutreach.org. And either myself or Bernita will help with the registration process. So all they need to do is say, hey, I'm looking to take a short-term mission trip to see Elena or Fernando or Blake. And then we can say, great, we'll walk you through this process. In terms of information, again, the policy and procedure manual has more detailed information on a lot of these things. Our website also has some information and frequently asked questions under the mission trips tab. But please just feel free to reach out to us if you have questions, if you're preparing for a team, something comes up, and we're happy to kind of help with talking through that a little bit more.